Hey everyone, just wanted to spend a few minutes talking about the single system design planning paper. Now this isn't a long paper, just a couple of pages, 1 or 2 pages is fine. It's just a chance for me to take a look at what you're planning for the longer paper and give you some feedback on the method. So just to go through things here. Now I did say, I think last week, that I encourage you to use yourself. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a problem that is a big problem. It could just be something that you're interested in changing. Again, I want to emphasize your grade is not based on how successful you are at changing. Graduate school is a tough time to change with everything else that's going on. So I don't want to make grades contingent upon how successful a person is at changing. If you don't want to use yourself, if you've got a friend, a coworker, something like that, who's willing to sort of serve in this capacity, that's fine as well. So in the first section of this paper, you're going to describe the client system and you're going to describe the specific problem or behavior that'll be targeted. When you talk about the client system, go ahead and de-identify that information. You can sort of talk about yourself in the third person if you want to, and that's fine. That's good practice for sort of what social workers do in the professional world. So you're going to then identify the intervention that you're going to use. Ideally, there'd be a strong evidence base. It's okay if there's 1 or 2 papers that sort of support whatever intervention you want to use. So again, the thing that I would recommend that you do is pick an intervention that's feasible. So it doesn't need to be something that's sort of overly time-consuming or going to take a significant amount of resources. If you wanted to do something like mindfulness, for example, or some kind of guided meditation, there's a ton of that stuff available. Ton of that stuff available on YouTube that you certainly could use, and that would actually be fine. But remember, the point of the intervention here is that it's going to increase or decrease some value of the target problem. And the literature that you'll find for this paper and the next paper would be sort of evidence that there's a connection between the target problem and the intervention. Okay, so then what you want to tell me is what's the goal. So you're going to reduce a behavior, increase a behavior, that kind of thing. Or if you're going to increase an indicator of some kind, something like self-esteem or something like that would be fine. And then what you want to tell me is what are the indicators that you're going to measure. So what are the indicators of whatever that problem or behavior is? There are measures certainly that you can use. I've got some if you're struggling to find something. There are things widely available online. But then also remember that you could use a self-anchored scale. So I would encourage you to use at least a measure and a self-anchored scale. Take a look at last week's material if you need a refresher on how to sort of structure a self-anchored scale. But one of the things I'll be looking for when I look at your paper is your self-anchored scale set up in the right way? And again, the general format for a self-anchored scale is on a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being the most or the highest. How blank are you feeling? Blank obviously corresponding to whatever target problem you're choosing to use in your single system design. Then after that, tell me your design. I think AB is fine, ABC is fine, AB is fine, whatever you sort of think fits with the problem and the intervention, and whatever sort of is feasible given the other responsibilities that you have. As a general rule, you probably want to collect data for 20 days, so like 3 weeks. And you can divide that up however you want to among the various phases. Just remember that in any one phase, you need a minimum of 2 measurements, and that's so you can establish a trend. You can't establish a trend with fewer than 2 measurements. So again, I think about 3 weeks is sort of what's what makes 3 weeks is sort of what makes the process useful to you. and generally gives you enough data to sort of make interpretations. In general, the more data you have in a single system design, the sort of easier it is to interpret. The more data you have, it's easier to see trends. So if you want to go longer than three weeks, that's certainly fine. But I think again, 21 days is about what you're looking for. And then just a brief mention of how you're going to protect the human subject. And remember, the three sort of critical areas are beneficence, justice, and respect for persons. So just talk about each one of those in relation to the study. So what am I looking for overall? A page or two. Put some headings in there just so I can sort of find things. There is no need for references here. It's okay to use I language if you want to. Again, you're also welcome to talk about yourself in the third person. And then just make sure you're talking about all those the different spots that we talked about in the previous slides. As always, if there's questions or problems, let me know, and we can get things sorted out. There will be a Dropbox for this assignment in the week's material.